Welcome back to The Green Kitchen. This is a show that celebrates the link between nature, nutrition, and livelihood. I am Vibha Varshne and I work on biodiversity at food at the Center for Science and Environment. This is the last episode of the first season of The Green Kitchen, and we have a special guest with us for this. Welcome to the show, Sunita ji.
So, Vibha, the way my mother planted a lot of these trees, but I've added to them. I have a plum at the back, and then this is a bale
This is a
in
very
one year.
resilient plant for drought.
For drought.
So, it's a good tree to have around.
I'm looking forward to it in another few seasons to get some fruit out of it.
And this is
This is moringa. Look
Yeah.
at this. Look at the drumstick. This is a local variety, and
Okay.
actually it's a look.
Yes, such a small, nice,
Huh.
fresh, young.
Fresh young
Yeah.
drumstick that there is. But look at the jamun.
Yes.
Now
full
you
of fruit.
spoke about how you talked about jamun. Just look at the fruit.
Yes.
Now just think of the livelihood potential of this one tree. This has kgs of fruit on it.
Mhm.
The more jamun we grow, and it's such a beautiful tree.
Lovely.
Now, this is the. Then this is my mother had planted this tree. Just look at this. This had at least this tree. I would imagine 500 fruit this season. And we have eaten, even last night, we had biryani, vegetable biryani out of it, jackfruit biryani. I have given it to friends, colleagues, everyone.
I got one.
You got one.
And it was very nice.
And now it's in the fruit stage.
Okay.
So now, in fact, and this is the beauty of jackfruit, how different cultures eat it differently. So my mango tree is new,
Okay.
last year's, but look at the mango.
Oh, wow. Such a small tree.
Look at it.
And so many
Look
fruits.
at it. Look at it.
Yes. They are ripe or?
Haan,
they're-
nahi, abhi nahi. They're going to get.
Wow.
We still need to wait for them. But just look at this one.
Everything that we have talked about in the first season,
Yes.
and you are it's
I'm
good to-
enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it.
It's good to have
Absolutely.
it all with you, but if the market increases, I'm sure farmers would also be providing this in the
Yes.
market. During this first season, we talked about a lot of indigenous ingredients such as turmeric, we talked about gula, we talked about jamun, jackfruit, moringa, and bale. I will ask now Sunita ji about what is the link between this biodiversity and why should we talk about biodiversity and food?
See, Vibha, just think about the first season that you have done. Think of bale. Bale is such a remarkable tree which gives you this fruit, which is pulpy, juicy, comes at the time of summer when you need that nutrition. So it's like the tree was built for the intense heat. Okay? You talked about jamun, a tree that comes at the monsoon period when you get its fruit. Again, a tree that is so critical for our cities, for anywhere. Now, we often think about protecting trees, but we don't think about the value of those trees in terms of our own livelihood of people. I mean, if you look at jackfruit, look at the livelihoods it provides. So if we literally had a mission that we will build an industry out of that jackfruit, you're creating a nutrition industry which is built on the land. So you're making the connection between food and the environment.
Okay, so Sunita ji, tell us something about why it is important for CSC to work on biodiversity.
Our understanding has been that to protect the biodiversity in the wild, you will need to celebrate it on your own plate. You will need to celebrate it in your own life. Because if you don't understand the value of that biodiversity as it is used, you will never understand the value of it in the wild. But also at CSE, our food work has really evolved over the years. I mean, when we began the work, we were really looking at pesticides in food, as you know. Now, as we looked at that, we became more and more concerned about the fact that we were eating ultra processed food, that it was not just the pesticides in the food, but also the other ingredients, whether it is too much sugar, too much fat, too much salt. And you were really creating a food culture in India, as it is across the world, in which we were not eating food for nutrition. We were eating food because it was, in a sense, sold to us. Okay? And that's where, in some senses, CSE's journey started looking at, and we found that there was a connection between that food that we were telling people to eat. It also was that same food that was coming from the biodiversity in our world. And, we keep saying this, Vibha, you say it, I say it, that, as Indians, we are taught about cultural diversity, and it is remarkable. I mean, India is an incredible, a country of so many cultures and such diversity. But what we don't often talk about is the fact that that cultural diversity is because of the biological diversity in our country. That people eat differently, not because of anything else, but because that food was what was local. And that food was also local, it was also adapted to the local weather conditions. It's, in a sense, a science of food that we have forgotten. And that science of food is related to the science of nature. And I think that's our effort, to try and share that and to learn. And as we learn, we are sharing it with people so that we all can become more informed about the food we eat, the value of it for our own bodies, but also the value of it in the local environment.
So we have published 4 books on this.
Yes.
And all of these themes that you have mentioned are what we have focused on in these books. And the 4th book is about climate change. So can you talk about why these foods, the local biodiversity, why it is good for the climate change, how it would help us survive?
I remember when we began our journey, how little we knew and how little it was celebrated. And that the first time we talked about makhana. And for us, makhana was so important because it was a food that came out of a water body. And we said the only way you can protect your water bodies is when you make them productive. And if you make your water body productive, and that food from the water body is something that will give you a livelihood out of, you will make money out of, you will protect the water body as well, your ponds and tanks.
Exactly.
Today, in the age of climate change, when you and I are talking, we are seeing such extreme weather events. We are seeing more rain. We are seeing more rain in fewer number of rainy days. And we are becoming even more conscious of the fact that we need those water bodies. We need our lakes, our ponds, our talabs. But what is the livelihood and the food culture, food biodiversity of that water body that that people can benefit from? And today, makhana is everywhere. It is the new popcorn of India, It's seen as the new health food of India, and it's everywhere. It's good. I mean, I just hope that when we eat the makhana and we sell the makhana, we don't coat it with so much sugar that it destroys the basic quality of the makhana. But still, I think it is such a good thing to see how we are becoming more conscious of it. And now that, to me, is where this journey is going. And that's where climate change, your latest book on first food, where you have brought recipes from different parts of India, you've also looked at food, which is resilient. And I think that's very important for us to learn about. I mean, I think the government of India has done us a big favor by talking about millets. I mean, millets are, for us and for you and me, millets are so important because they're water-prudent crops. Now, it's also part of our history that we lost a lot of these foods because they became coarse millets. They became pigeon pea. So pigeons ate it. Cow pea. Cows eat it. So that whole cultural word use that we did was to make refined rice and refined wheat the business of refined people, whereas the coarser food which in some senses is the food which is more nutritious, more adapted to local conditions, became food that became neglected. So that food needs to be back on our tables.
Exactly. And though the government has actually talked about millets, there's so much more variety out there that we
Yes.
should be consuming, and that is going to actually help the environment. So my last question to you would be how these biodiversity based foods can reduce the pressure on agriculture.
Now, what will make Indian agriculture more resilient to climate change is if we can improve our soil health. Okay. Now, to improve your soil health, you need to increase the diversity of microorganisms that are available below the ground as well.
Exactly.
To do that, you need to grow biodiverse crops above the ground as well. Okay. So I think the fact that we have to move out of a culture of growing food which is monocropped, but growing towards food which is multi-cropped food is going to be very critical. Also, as a risk mitigation measure, because farmers today are really the worst victims of climate change. We have to understand that. Now, the only way farmers can also manage is by mitigating their risk, which means having, as they used to have, a diversity of crops which they can depend on. And the third thing, of course, is that we need to do everything to reduce the cost of growing food to farmers. Because today, the crisis of agriculture is that their cost of growing food is going up because the cost of inputs is going up, the cost of labor is going up, but the cost at which you and I are buying the food, we want it to go down. And that is the real crisis. So we have to find a food growing method which will reduce the cost. This is where also this resilient agriculture, this regenerative agriculture, this biodiverse agriculture is going to be good for the farmers, because it is going to be good for the soils and good for their ability to withstand shocks.
This is also the knowledge that was already existed with our farmers earlier. So we are also reviving that knowledge about how agriculture should be actually practiced.
Actually, you're giving them respect again. Because
Exactly.
what has happened is, over the years, that we have kind of we have appropriated the knowledge of agriculture into scientific spaces. I think what we now need is a new balance in which that scientific understanding is harmonized with the understanding of the farmer, because they understand the local ecology, they understand the changes that they are seeing, they understand what it takes to cope with the changes. And that's the new science that we need, which is built on local understanding and scientific knowledge.
Thank you, Sunita ji, for such an interesting talk. If you want to know more about such ingredients, please visit the CSC store. Look for First Food series of books and please do buy them. We would be back again with a new season of The Green Kitchen. We would talk about new ingredients and many more healthy foods that you can include in your diet.